This episode contains a trigger warning, content warning for discussion of sexual assault, sexual abuse, rape, and child sexual abuse. I said no. 3 times exactly. No, before he ever put his hands on me. No, before he tried to kiss me. No, before he followed me out to my car. I said no. I said no. No less than 5 times. No before he came over. No once more before he got in his car. No once, twice, 3 times before he misread my body language and took advantage of my grief. I said no. I didn't say no. I didn't say no when he invited me to the party. I didn't say no when it was decided I would do the drinking for our beer pong team. I didn't say no when he carried me to his car to drive me home, or when I woke up with his hands in between my legs. I didn't say no. I didn't say no when he climbed into my car, or when he turned me upside down head first into my back floorboard, exposing the only part of me he wanted as my throat constricted and my mind went blank, capable only of registering fear and the single thought, please, just finish. I didn't say no when he decided I must have changed my mind and kissed me, his hands quickly moving to my breasts and between my legs as my heart quickened, encouraging me to fight or flee, but my tongue dried, my throat swelled, my body froze, and I didn't say no when once again I found a man's tongue where I'd asked him not to put it. I didn't say no as he carried me up the stairs to my apartment, or as he followed me to my room, or as he tossed aside the condom he'd bought just for this. I didn't say no as my sobriety returned and disgust overwhelmed me. I didn't say no as he handed me my phone to unlock so he could have my number. 1,000 words have crossed my lips, and more I know will come. The shrieking of my wounded heart from dawn to setting sun. Love and passion, pain and grief, these words they never end, but ever will be my regret. I didn't say no to him. This is a poem that I wrote on March 16th, 2018, a few months after I was raped for the 3rd time in my adult life. This is a poem that I wrote combining the experiences of the 3 separate sexual assaults I survived and dealing with the guilt that I felt for having a freeze response instead of a fight or flight response. A freeze response is very common, particularly in those like me with a history of abuse. Not fighting back does not make it your fault. No one should ever put you in the position of having to fight back. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Naomi, and this is Mosaic in Progress. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and boy, is there a lot to talk about. I mean, our media is inundated with all of the disgusting pedophilia that we are finding out has just been a normal part of our culture for a long time. And if you had ever spoken to women or listened to women, you would have known that for a long time. But the world is finally waking up and realizing that our culture is built on pedophilia. Our beauty standards are built on pedophilia. Our way of structuring society is built on pedophilia, and any woman could have told you that because we've all experienced it. I was hit on more as a child than I have been as an adult woman. And that, in and of itself, makes me want to vomit every day. The fact that as a 12-year-old child, I had grown men hitting on me more than I do now as an adult woman is just disgusting. And you realize it more as you get older because you grow up with it. You know, you're sexualized before you've even left elementary school. I was probably 5 the first time I was sexualized by an adult man, and it didn't stop there. It wasn't a one-off event. It was just continuous through my entire life until really I hit middle age, about 35. That was about when it stopped. That's when men stopped seeing me as, a sexual being. But it was most intense in my childhood. Even before I was a teen, it was most intensely clustered in that time period. And it has been said by many that we live in a rape culture. And that's just patriarchy. And I don't say that in a way to dismiss it and just say, oh, that's just patriarchy. No, that's patriarchal culture. Patriarchal culture is rape culture. Because you look at what patriarchy is and you look at the colonization that has to take place for patriarchy to exist. Patriarchy is structured with rape. Raping the land, raping children, raping women. It is a societal structure that's built on conquest, and rape is just conquest. People think that rape is sexual. No, rape is violence. It is violence of a sexual nature, and that's intentional. There is violence that destroys people. And there is violence that destroys creativity, because violence that has a sexual component destroys creativity. And why would you want to destroy creativity? What's the point of that? Have we thought about that at all? Have we discussed that at all? I feel like this is a huge component that is missing from the discussion, because it's not just that patriarchy is a violent societal structure, or that rape is an inherent part of patriarchy. It is that in order for this societal structure to exist, you have to kill any ideology that might exist outside of it, which means you must kill creativity. And sexual energy is creative energy. And so if sex is traumatic, you're not going to use it for your own pleasure. And if you can rape women and children enough, or rape enough of them, that the rest of them are too afraid, creativity is stifled. And ideology outside of what you have deemed is acceptable is squashed. And patriarchal culture in the United States is bolstered by Christian ideology. Purity culture that took root in the 1980s and has just blossomed with a fervent, petulant stench since then, bolsters rape culture. And this is talked about quite a bit in ex-evangelical and deconstruction circles, but people in the church don't talk about it, and people outside of the church don't talk about it. It's only talked about by those who were victimized by the church, at least in my experience. Purity culture, this idea that the most important thing that you can be is a virgin, plays into this pedophilic, patriarchal bullshit. And I was raised in purity culture, and I saw how often that girls were given the responsibility of managing boys or grown men's urges. Don't wear that shirt, you'll tempt him. Don't wear those pants, you'll tempt him. Don't wear that dress, you'll tempt him. Don't sit like that, they'll think you're easy. Don't sing too loud, you're calling attention to yourself. And that's not chaste. C-H-A-S-T-E, chaste. For those of you not raised in purity culture, it doesn't mean that you are being chaste. It has to do with chastity. And it is what every young woman should be, according to the Bible, that as it is interpreted by evangelical men who look at little girls as traps for their lust, because they have repressed themselves so much and repressed their wives so much that no one can actually express their sexuality in any healthy way. And so every hint of sexuality is like a drop of water in a desert, and it becomes the self-fulfilling prophecy of abuse because they refuse to give in to their own desires in any kind of a healthy or consensual way, because they refuse to allow anyone around them to give in to their desires in any kind of healthy or consensual way. Then they descend into depravity, and hypocrisy becomes the price that vice pays to virtue, because they want to appear virtuous, but they have demonized every normal expression of human sexuality, and they chastise themselves internally and externally sometimes for every normal desire, for every normal action. And since they are so publicly chaste, all that is left is secrecy and violence. And because of this, we find this false dichotomy of consent versus sexual assault. And that is not to say that anything that is non-consensual is not reportable. But there is so much in between consent and sexual assault, because there is so little communication, and communication is so poor when it is had. There is this idea that if you communicate with your partner, you're ruining the mood. On both sides, for men and women. And so you just do it. Whether you like it or not, whether it's working for you or not, you just do it, because that's what you do. And there's never a discussion of what consent means. There's not a discussion about sobriety and how that plays into consent, or STDs and needing to disclose those, because you shouldn't have those anyway, because you should be a good Christian girl, boy, and have never had sex with anyone before you marry your spouse. And so you shouldn't have STDs anyway, so it shouldn't be a discussion. And relationship status, for that matter, the idea that maybe there are open relationships or polyamorous relationships, it's never discussed, because those are not what Jesus intended, even though Jesus never discussed that. Full disclosure of pregnancy, or ability to get pregnant, for that matter, none of these things are ever discussed, ever. And I don't think that is exclusive to church circles, because I know so many people who were not raised in the church and also never had these discussions about what real consent is, and the dichotomy between sexual assault and consent. Because if you have two people who don't know how to communicate, one might feel that they have been sexually assaulted, but there might not be any true harm or wrongdoing on the part of the other. That doesn't mean that the one did not experience harm. It means that you have two very immature people, regardless of their age, who don't know how to communicate with each other and have ended up hurting each other because neither one knew how to use their voices. I think a very big component of having this discussion with Sexual Assault Awareness Month is having the discussion about what consent is and what healthy sexuality is. And there's age-appropriate conversations that can be had from as early as puberty, 11, 12 years old, and sometimes younger for some people. It can start that early, and that's not to say that you have the talk that early, but you can start having those conversations that early about consent, about sexuality. And people are so unwilling to do that. People are so uncomfortable with having conversations about sex. People are so uncomfortable having conversations about sex that they will be married to someone for 60 years and never have good sex with them because they don't know how to discuss with them what they like and what they want. And people don't know how to talk to their friends about this. Because I don't know a single person that I've had this conversation with about sexual assault or consent or anything like that. I don't know a single person that doesn't know or is a woman who has experienced sexual assault. I know a lot of people. I don't know a single person who is not or doesn't know a woman who has experienced sexual assault. But what's really funny is I know no one who knows a rapist. I know a couple people who know a rapist, and it's one guy. And they try to make excuses for this guy, even though he was like convicted and sent to jail. Everyone knows a woman who is raped, but no one knows a rapist. And that is a problem because people are unwilling to hold men accountable. People don't truly believe women. They'll support women in their mental health journey, but they don't really believe women to the point of saying, yeah, fuck that guy. I'm not going to have anything to do with him anymore. When I was raped at the end of 2017, I had about 8 people offer to kill my rapist for me. And my suicidal ass was like, okay, I know where he lives actually. I can give you name and address. Here it is. And nobody actually acted on that. And that I'm not saying that in a sense of like, how dare you not go commit murder. But anytime a woman is raped that I have had knowledge of, that is everyone's reaction. I'll kill him for you. And anytime that they actually have the knowledge and ability to do so, they just don't. It is empty words. And I'm not saying this to say, hey, everybody go start killing rapists. That's not the point. My point is that people don't actually support women after they're raped. They say empty words as if they are going to protect her, and then they forget about her. They forget about her. I was forgotten about. I spent 3 days in a mental hospital, and I came home, and no one checked on me. I couldn't do my dishes. I couldn't shower. I couldn't really sleep. I had panic attacks every night. I couldn't clean my apartment. No one gave a fuck about me. No one gave a fuck about me. And I was going to church then. And people at church knew what I was going through. And no one gave a flying fuck about me. My health declined significantly. Partially because I got HPV from my rapist. Cancer-causing HPV. Thanks, dude. My endometriosis flared. And so I was in excruciating pain all the time. And no one was actually doing anything to support me. And all of the people who were around me were the kind of people who say, oh, I'll go kill the rapist. Oh, I support women. And they didn't. They absolutely didn't. And I know I sound a little bitter as I'm discussing this, and I am. Full disclosure, I'm not going to hide that. I am bitter. I went through some of the worst trauma of my life, surrounded by people who I thought loved me and cared for me, and they did not give a fuck about what I was going through. I was ready to kill myself almost every single day, and none of them were even checking in on me. Yes, I am bitter, and I'm not alone in this experience. This is not unique And it's not unique to women, and it's not unique to sexual assault. I know so many people who have gone through so many horrific traumas who were surrounded by people who said they were there for them, and they absolutely were not there for them. Our society is too isolated to be a society. There is no community. There is no real support. And so there is no accountability. Because in a real society, in a real community, someone rapes someone, they're run out of the town if they live. But we're so isolated from each other, we're so disconnected, we're so disjointed that anybody can rape anybody. And you go to the police and they look you in your goddamn eyeballs and say, it usually takes 2 to 3 women reporting before guys like this ever see the inside of a courtroom. But don't worry, if he does it again and they report, and it's within 7 years, your case can be used as evidence to convict him. We have lied to ourselves that we live in a society. We live in a machine that has made us all cogs, where we don't know our neighbors. We don't support each other in any way. We don't hold people accountable. We think we've got police or government officials to do that for us, and they absolutely don't, because they're not looking out for society's best interest. They're looking out for their own best interest, and they don't give a fuck about you or how society runs. It's Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and that feels laughable with the current state of our society. Our president was elected after saying, if you're as famous as I am, you can grab women by the pussy. You can do whatever you want because you're famous. And after taking office, it has come to light how much of a fucking pedophile he is, and all of the young girls that he has assaulted and hurt, and young boys that he has assaulted and hurt, and somehow he's still in office and not being impeached. And he's not the only one. There's so many who are not suffering any consequences, who are not being held accountable. Sexual Assault Awareness Month is a joke in 2026, because no one cares if you've been sexually assaulted, whether you're a child or an adult. No one cares about how you feel after that. No one cares about holding perpetrators accountable. And so what do we do with this information? Knowing that this is a crime that is no longer a crime, because crimes that aren't prosecuted basically aren't crimes anymore. It's like adultery in Georgia. Adultery is still, at least as of a few years ago, I haven't checked recently, but as of a few years ago, adultery was still a crime in Georgia. It was a misdemeanor. So if you cheated on your spouse, you could actually be taken to court for a criminal offense. But no one ever filed charges. No one ever enforced that. So it basically didn't exist as a crime. It's really where we are with sexual assault in this country. Anyone can get away with it, even the highest office in this country, with all of the evidence that he is guilty. You can get away with it. So if you know someone who is a victim of sexual assault and they seem angry all the time, that's probably why. So the best thing that you can do to raise awareness for Sexual Assault Awareness Month is every time you hear a man make some misogynistic joke or make some comment about a woman or a young girl's body, tell him he is a fucking predatory asshole. Don't hold back. Proverbially, punch him in his mouth. I am not encouraging violence. I'm saying do it with words. And if you know a woman who is a survivor, even if you don't like her, buy her some flowers or some ice cream, some chocolate. Tell her you see her and you know what she's been through. If you know a man who has been through that, then invite him out for coffee or drinks and invite him to speak about how he feels, because I'm sure nobody ever has. Tell him that you are a safe space and you'll listen. Thanks for joining me again on the podcast this week. Please go to linktree.com/mosaicandprogress and follow me on socials. Go follow me on Patreon. I'd love it if you subscribe, but you don't have to. Patreon is free with my account, or you can subscribe and contribute to the work that I'm doing, whichever you are called to do. And there's all the links there, linktree.com/mosaicandprogress, and I hope you will join me again next week as we both continue to work on our mosaic in progress.